Man, bro, did a song with Lul Timm. Man, y'all, shut y'all. They ain't gonna do shit ass niggas up, man.
This didn't start as a song. It started as a shockwave. The moment footage surfaced of Chief Keef and NBA YoungBoy in the studio together, it wasn't just another collaboration. It was a cultural detonation. Because if you understand the history, you understand the weight. These aren't just two artists. These are two names tied to bloodlines, alliances, funerals, indictments, and unresolved war stories. So when Rooms dropped, produced by Mike Will Made It, it didn't land like music. It landed like a statement. And the block took it personally. Social media didn't just react. It ignited. Timelines split in half. Blogs scrambled. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. According to early engagement data, the first 48 hours saw explosive cross-platform traction. Not just because of the sound, but because of the symbolism. Psychologically, this resonated because it challenged identity. In drill culture, alliances aren't casual. They're territorial. And when someone perceived as foundational links with someone perceived as opposition, it triggers something primal. This wasn't curiosity. It was betrayal narratives resurfacing in real time. Critics will argue it's just business. And from an industry lens, they're not wrong. But in environments where memory is long and loss is recent, perception outweighs intention. And perception said this was a line crossed. So the question wasn't, is the song good? The question was, what does this mean? And that's where things started to unravel.
Lul Timm responded to people being mad at Chief Keef and NBA YoungBoy just announcing a new collab dropping soon. This is something to talk about.
To understand why this hit so hard, you have to understand who Chief Keef is. Not just as a rapper, but as a symbol. Born Keith Cozart, raised in Parkway Gardens, later known as O'Block. He didn't just participate in drill music, he industrialized it. When he was uploading raw, unfiltered freestyles from house arrest in 2011, he wasn't chasing clout. He was documenting reality. And that authenticity became a blueprint. Data from early YouTube growth cycles shows his uploads weren't just popular. They shifted regional sound into global replication. UK drill, Brooklyn drill, even Atlanta trap started absorbing his cadence and minimalistic aggression. That wasn't an accident. That was influence. At 16, he was the face of a movement he barely had time to understand. And psychologically, when a teenager becomes the embodiment of a neighborhood's hope, that neighborhood starts believing they own a piece of him. That's where things get complicated. Because when he left Chicago for safety reasons, for survival, for growth, some saw evolution, others saw abandonment. Critics argue he distanced himself when the block needed him most. But that argument ignores one cold reality. Survival changes perspective. When you've been shot at, indicted, surveilled, and targeted before adulthood, distance isn't betrayal, it's strategy. And strategy doesn't always look loyal to people still in the war zone.
Starting to see why people had a saying that the best thing Chief Keef could have done was distance himself from O-Block and get out of Chicago.
By 2012, Keef wasn't just buzzing. He was unavoidable. I Don't Like hit the Billboard charts. Kanye West co-signed it. A bidding war erupted. A reported multi-million-dollar deal with Interscope followed. His debut album cemented his commercial legitimacy. But here's what rarely gets said. He was still a kid, 15, carrying industry expectations while navigating real-life threats. According to crime trend analyses from Chicago during that era, retaliation cycles were escalating in the neighborhoods tied to drill's rise. That environment wasn't abstract. It was personal. So when his team moved him out to suburban Northfield, it wasn't luxury. It was protective extraction. Fast forward to NBA YoungBoy, one of the most streamed artists globally. A Baton Rouge powerhouse whose catalog thrives on confrontation and emotional volatility. On paper, this collaboration is genius. Two streaming giants, two cult followings. But the subtext is explosive because YoungBoy's long-standing tension with Lil Durk, and by extension O'Block, isn't industry gossip. It's layered with diss records, affiliate conflicts, and the shadow of King Von. And that's where this stops being musical and becomes symbolic warfare. Because in the eyes of many on O Block, Young Boy isn't just another artist. He represents the opposition. And when the originator stands beside the opposition, the narrative writes itself.
What parts of the body?
I get shot in my right hip bone, and I get shot on my ass. It go in and out though.
Then there's Lul Timm, the name that guarantees this situation never stays calm. The man who shot King Von in 2020, legally cleared under Georgia's Stand Your Ground statute in 2023 after prosecutors dropped charges before indictment. Surveillance footage showed Von initiating physical contact. The system labeled it self-defense. But law and loyalty operate on different currencies. For O Block, that night wasn't a statute debate. It was trauma. So when Timm later appears online addressing the Block directly, dismissing them, challenging them, the psychological impact is nuclear. Because now the collaboration isn't just symbolic, it feels taunting. According to engagement spikes following his statements, controversy once again amplified reach. But emotionally, it reopened wounds. Critics will argue Timm should stay silent for his own safety. That provocation invites escalation. That's a fair assessment. But his messaging wasn't random. It was calculated dominance signaling. In conflict psychology, public dismissal of adversaries is a power play. It reframes the hierarchy. Whether you view him as villain, survivor, or instigator, his presence intensifies everything. And that's why this moment felt less like rap beef and more like psychological warfare.
Loyalty for me is strong though. Like, loyalty to me is for everybody that a nigga fucking with, so.
Now we need to talk about the three words that poured gasoline on everything. Get some money. On the surface, it sounds like a generic flex, standard rap talk. But context turns it into a surgical strike. Because at the time those words were spoken, Lil Durk, the figure many viewed as O Block's modern pillar, was facing serious federal charges related to an alleged murder-for-hire conspiracy. Multiple associates indicted. Allegations involving interstate travel, financial transactions, coordinated retaliation. Federal cases aren't street rumors. They're slow-moving machines with conviction rates north of 90%. That's not emotional commentary. That's statistical reality. So when Timm says, get some money, what he's implying is deeper. While you're online debating loyalty, the federal government is building cases. While you're arguing about songs, your leadership structure is under legal siege. That's not just disrespect. That's reframing the battlefield. Psychologically, this hits hard because it attacks competence. Not toughness. Not loyalty. Competence. Suggests mismanagement. That energy was confirmed by social discourse trends. A split audience. Some defending O Block's emotional stance. Others arguing that survival requires strategy, not symbolism. Critics will argue Timm's statement lacks empathy. That grief deserves silence, not mockery. And morally, many would agree. But strategically, he positioned himself as someone outside the collapse, looking in. And that posture, whether you like it or not, shifts perception. In modern hip-hop culture, perception shapes narrative faster than facts. This resonates because at a human level, nobody wants to feel powerless. And indictments create powerlessness. So when someone publicly highlights that vulnerability, it feels like exposure. If this continues, the next phase of this conflict won't be lyrical. It'll be legal. Because federal pressure restructures entire ecosystems. And the uncomfortable truth is this. While street loyalty fuels identity, federal prosecution dismantles infrastructure. So the real question becomes, who's actually winning here?
You pull out and you shoot 4 times.
Yeah, the gun jammed.
Oh, the gun jammed.
Yeah.
At the core of all this is one word: loyalty. But loyalty in drill culture isn't soft. It's militarized. It's enforced through memory, sacrifice, and retaliation. When Keef allegedly didn't post bail for certain affiliates years ago, resentment brewed. When reports surfaced about internal theft and crossed lines, trust eroded. These weren't isolated incidents, they were fractures. And fractures compound over time. According to patterns seen in high-conflict social groups, unresolved internal disputes often resurface during external alliances. Translation: old wounds get triggered by new moves. So when rooms dropped, it wasn't judged in isolation. It was filtered through a decade of grievances. Meanwhile, federal indictments against Lil Durk and affiliates on murder-for-hire conspiracy charges shifted the power structure entirely. When the federal government enters the equation, street codes lose leverage. That's not emotional, that's structural. And when Lul Timm told them to get some money, it wasn't just disrespect, it was a commentary on collapse. Critics will argue he exploited a painful moment. That may be true, but the underlying reality remains. Indictments change dynamics. And E-Dogg's reaction, while emotionally understandable, also reveals a tension between survival and symbolism.
Yeah, that's the second time I done got shot.
Are you more calm about it this time since you've gone through it before?
Yeah, because like the first time I got shot, I didn't even have a panic attack.
What this entire saga exposes is the contradiction at the heart of drill culture. The same codes meant to preserve honor often accelerate destruction. Chief Keef represents exit, evolution beyond territorial politics. E-Dogg represents rooted identity, the refusal to detach from memory. Lul Timm represents consequence, the irreversible outcome of escalation. And NBA Youngboy represents business over allegiance. These forces colliding isn't coincidence. It's inevitability. Based on demographic shifts in hip-hop audiences, younger listeners increasingly prioritize authenticity over allegiance, growth over grudges. That means the culture itself is evolving. But evolution is uncomfortable for those still embedded in conflict cycles. Psychologically, people cling to loyalty narratives because they provide stability in chaotic environments. But stability built on retaliation eventually implodes. If this pattern continues, the next era of drill won't be defined by who dissed who. It'll be defined by who survives the legal system, who adapts, and who escapes the mythology that once empowered them. Because credibility is replacing aggression as the new currency. And the internet, which once amplified every shot fired, is now documenting every indictment filed. So the real question isn't who won this round online. The real question is, when survival demands distance, who has the courage to choose it?
Boy, mad, bro, did a song with Lul Timm. Hey, y'all, shut y'all pussy ass bitch. They ain't gonna do shit ass niggas up, man.
And then came the moment that shifted this from tension to psychological warfare. When Lul Timm resurfaced on camera days after the collaboration dropped, he didn't sound defensive. He sounded comfortable, almost amused. And that tone, that ease, is what triggered people the most. Because this wasn't someone hiding from the narrative. This was someone stepping into it. Looking directly at the block tied to King Von and essentially telling them their outrage meant nothing. In conflict psychology, that's dominance framing. It's not about volume, it's about posture. According to digital engagement analytics, clips of his response spread faster than the original song announcement in certain circles. Why? Because unresolved trauma mixed with public defiance is algorithm fuel. Critics will argue he's provoking something that doesn't need to be provoked. And strategically, that's valid. Public antagonism in an environment already under federal scrutiny is dangerous. But from his perspective, the legal system cleared him. In his narrative, he stood on business and walked free. And that belief, whether you agree with it or not, informs his confidence. This resonates because people don't just watch conflicts for facts. They watch for posture, for who looks shaken and who looks steady. And right now, the optics show someone unbothered while the other side appears emotionally reactive. And in a culture obsessed with strength, optics matter more than explanations.
Ain't gonna do shit ass niggas up, man.
Let's slow this down and get analytical for a second. The legal dismissal of charges against Lul Timm in 2023 under Georgia's Stand Your Ground law fundamentally altered the power dynamic. Legally speaking, once prosecutors decline indictment, the state's position is clear. Insufficient grounds for murder prosecution. That doesn't erase grief, but it does cement a legal conclusion. And here's where the disconnect explodes. The streets operate on emotional justice. The courts operate on evidentiary thresholds. Those are not the same systems. So when Timm speaks publicly, he's speaking from legal validation. But O-Block hears it from an emotional lens. And that friction is combustible. According to crime escalation studies in urban conflict zones, public humiliation often triggers retaliation more than private disputes. It's the visibility that intensifies it. That's why this situation feels bigger than it should be. It's not just about the past. It's about the public framing of the past. Critics might say Keef should have anticipated this reaction before collaborating. That aligning with Youngboy would inevitably reopen wounds. And that's fair. But here's the counterpoint. Should artists be permanently tethered to past conflicts they didn't directly create? That's the uncomfortable debate. Because if the expectation is eternal allegiance over personal evolution, then growth becomes betrayal by default. Step back and look at the full picture. Chief Keef represents what happens when someone exits the cycle early enough to survive it. He left Chicago over a decade ago, built a new ecosystem in Los Angeles. Independent releases, business ventures, family, distance. According to long-term career trajectory data in hip-hop, artists who detach from active street affiliations significantly increase career longevity. That's not opinion, that's pattern recognition. Meanwhile, the figures who stayed deeply entangled in territorial conflicts faced escalating legal exposure. That's correlation we can't ignore. Now critics argue that Keef owes his platform to the block, that cultural debt demands permanent allegiance. But here's the flaw in that argument. Debt without boundaries becomes captivity. And captivity in an environment of escalating violence isn't loyalty. It's self-destruction. The irony here is heavy. The same code being invoked to criticize Keef is the code that contributed to funerals and federal indictments. That's not villainizing anyone. That's examining outcomes. This situation exposes a larger shift in hip-hop culture. Real versus performative loyalty. Authentic versus inherited allegiance. Younger audiences are increasingly drawn to artists who choose growth over grudges. According to streaming demographic shifts over the past 5 years, listeners respond more to narrative resilience than territorial allegiance. That means the culture itself is evolving. But evolution feels like betrayal to those anchored in memory. Lul Timm exists in a space nobody envies, forever attached to a single irreversible night. O-Block exists in a space defined by pride and pain. And Chief Keef exists in a space that chose distance over entanglement. These three realities are colliding publicly, and the internet is amplifying every frame. If this trajectory continues, Drill's next chapter won't be written by diss tracks. It'll be written by who adapts to a world where legal scrutiny is heavier than street pressure. Because the real war isn't online, it's structural. And the uncomfortable truth is that survival sometimes looks like disloyalty. So the question nobody wants to answer is this. In a culture built on codes, what happens when the code itself becomes the liability?
If my other partner was there, like, I got loyalty for him, I got loyalty for my other partner, like, that's just how I am.